everybody to our afternoon session. Honorable members of the City Council, in accordance with Virginia Beach City Code 2021, and by the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Virginia Beach, I hereby call for a special formal session of the Virginia Beach City Council on Tuesday, June 9th, 2026 at 2:30. City Council Conference Room 2034, Building 1, second floor, 2401 Courthouse Drive. The purpose of the formal session will be allow council, following its regularly scheduled formal session, as listed in the attached agenda, to convene into a closed session to consider the following matters: publicly held property, District 6, public contract, VB Golf Course, RFP, personnel matters, appointees, council appointments, council boards, commissions, committees, authorities, agencies, task force, and committee. At the conclusion of the closed session, the city will convene into an open session for the purpose of certifying the closed session. The formal session will be broadcast live on TV and bbclub.com and Facebook Live. And also, Mark, wasn't that there was a change?
Yeah, the original version, sir, erroneously said District 2, but we changed it and got it out today to say District 6.
Okay, now that's not a record. Thank you. Okay, at this point, could I have a motion? Oh, no, we're good. Let's get ready to go. And so my sinuses are Lulu today. What can I tell you? Here we go.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, the first briefing will be a briefing on the upcoming hurricane season. So, as you know, typically around this time of the year, we give City Council a synopsis on what we've been doing to prepare, and also a general sense of what we are seeing from the experts as it relates to what to expect for this season. Next voice you'll hear will be David Topsinski, our Emergency Management Director. So go ahead, Tops.
Yep. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Thanks for having me. As we kick off hurricane season, just going to give you an update on the outlook prediction from the National Hurricane Center for this season, along with what we've been doing year round to prepare for not only hurricanes, but any type of severe weather or large emergencies. We're pressing the button. All right. I jinxed. I don't know. Probably not. I told you I was going to mess it up, Bam. I got it now. You're right. On helps.
Thank God I'm not the only one disconnected.
Let me see if you like summer here.
I jinxed it.
I hope your predictions are better than this.
It's a forecast. They don't have to be accurate.
How are you?
I have tags and shit. Emotional.
Every year. Once a year, and I mess it up every year. All right. So back to the presentation. So the outlook for this year, the Hurricane Center has a 70% confidence in their forecast that we will see below normal hurricane season. They're forecasting we could experience somewhere between 8 and 14 named storms. 3 to 6 of those would become hurricanes. And then 1 to 3 of those could grow to become a major hurricane, which is a Category 3 or higher. And really that's because El Nino conditions are already starting to develop, and they're going to continue to develop throughout the summer and into the fall months. In short, what that means is that it's going to be harder for hurricanes to develop in the Atlantic Ocean this summer, but not impossible. And there's still a really strong risk of storms forming. The Weather Service is describing their forecast like a sports metaphor of essentially the outlook is like shots on goal or goal attempts. And just like in sports, it only takes one goal to go in to win in overtime. And that's what we're worried about is it's the one storm that causes impacts here. Keeping in mind, we don't have to have a direct strike. We know that the remnants of tropical storms, nor'easters, and many other severe weather patterns can cause issues with flooding, power outages, damaging homes, and roadways. And that's what we work year round to prepare for. All right. So the first, though, as we start hurricane season, which started June 1st and runs through November 30th, we do like to take this time of year to remind our residents, businesses, and even our employees and workforce that now's the time to kind of take a moment and prepare and think about how severe weather and tropical storms could impact them and disrupt their daily lives. So we take a moment to think about things like insurance. Do they have the right policy? Is it up to date? What's covered? Do they need separate flood insurance? moment to think about like evacuations. If they had to leave their home, where could they go? Who could they stay with? What supplies would they need? Their medications, pets, food, etc. How long could they stay with family, friends, coworkers? And then likewise, if they were to stay put in their residence and then have to stay there for a few days, what supplies would they need ahead of the severe weather so they could stay in their home like a camping trip without power until it's restored, power is restored. A big topic that we like to remind everybody of is where do they get their information from and notifications. Make sure they're signed up for VB Alert and how all the ways that they can receive official information and alerts from us so they have actual information to make decisions on. And we remind everybody to help us spread the word, check in with family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, anybody else that might need help preparing and help us share that message across the community. We have a ton of resources online on our emergency preparedness webpage. The website's up on the board, or a simple Google search of Virginia Beach emergency preparedness, from our storm guides to emergency checklist, all Virginia Beach specific geared towards our communities and their needs. So going to how the city prepares, preparing for large-scale emergencies and severe weather, it's really a year-round effort by everybody. For instance, this past year, our emergency management division conducted or participated in over 300 hours of training and exercises with many different departments and agencies across the region, state, and federal government. In addition to our normal preparedness activities, we did go through a recertification audit by the National Weather Service, and we're recertified as a storm-ready community, where they looked at our policies, procedures, past responses, and our protocols to redesignate us as a storm-ready community. FEMA reviewed us and our capability to issue emergency alerts and send alerts and warnings to the public, which we far exceeded the expectations on. With your help, we were able to adopt the city's first dedicated disaster recovery plan, which pulls that out from underneath the emergency operations plan and gave us a dedicated framework for how we would recover from a large-scale disaster in the days, weeks, months, and years after something significant impacts us. We continually review and revise the emergency shelter plan for the city. We want to make sure that's able to meet the community changes and meet the needs of our citizens across the city as our landscape changes. And then we did conduct a regional evacuation work group with the Southside partners of Hampton Roads. And we really just walked through what would a large evacuation look like, how could we share resources and information, and begin to coordinate that if we had to evacuate multiple jurisdictions at once. And all these really, on top of preparing our community, it also helps align us with the recommendations that came out from the FEMA Review Council recently. We know that those recommendations are to be implemented over the next 2 to 3 years, but they're essentially just going back to letter of the federal law of disasters and emergencies are the responsibility of the local government. And if we're overwhelmed, then the state and then the federal government will support as needed. And they're putting the emphasis back on preparedness and response capabilities and maintaining an investment from the local and state level in disaster preparedness. So we're moving towards making sure we meet those definitions, which we are pretty well prepared for. We're still waiting for funding sources to be released and what that could look like in the future. Most of our grants are still in limbo. As part of our preparedness efforts, we've also completed a complete full upgrade of the Emergency Operations Center. That helped us modernize our infrastructure there, expand our footprint a little bit by reorganizing it, but allows us to continue to operate the city in any type of adverse condition. We've built in a lot of redundancies so we can continue to provide those essential services and functions that the residents rely on. Part of that was integrating a field EOC into our equipment cache. So we can now not only operate out of our main emergency operations center, but we could set up like in the tent photo, anywhere, any field, any parking lot, be fully online with systems and services to continue that government continuity. And we can actually plug and play that field EOC into any city facility that has power or data. And we've built in those redundancies there. We've completed and implemented a switch to a new disaster management application through Esri and ArcGIS. We're now able to monitor the city resources in real time and situations across the city, rapidly share information and send alerts to the public. And as part of that, in partnership with ECCS, we were able to expand the watch desk capabilities, which means we can maintain situational awareness and then watch for incidents that are growing intervene earlier, and then prevent those from escalating into a major incident before it gets too far out of hand. Upcoming, we have an exercise with the Virginia Task Force 2 Urban Search and Rescue Team. That will be in July. They're going to do their full-scale exercise like a hurricane response, doing search and rescue and handling that component. And then we'll be parallel to them in the Emergency Operations Center, working hand in hand on how we would manage a large-scale disaster like that in real time, making sure we build that kind of redundancy and muscle memory in our staff across the city. And additionally, multiple departments also train year-round in things like damage assessment, debris management, public alert and warning, search and rescue, et cetera, just to make sure they're prepared for any type of emergency that can arise. Key here is I just want to share our kind of procedure for what happens when there's a storm approaching. Our goal is to provide you with that accurate critical information upfront, early on, and regularly, so you can keep your constituents and the residents advised with good information. We monitor year-round for anything that could impact the city or disrupt our operations. During hurricane season, our emergency management division staff do watch the National Hurricane Center reports daily. When we have a storm forming that looks like it could be heading our way, we will assign a dedicated staff member to just report on that storm. As we see it developing, we might start issuing specific Virginia Beach weather briefings, along with providing leadership briefings and intel reports up to you through Patrick. As that confidence increases, that forecast gets to a little bit over 50% confidence that we could see some sort of impacts, we'll start expanding our modeling, look at what those impacts could be on our own. We start looking at the excessive rainfall outlook. We'll conduct initial planning briefings. We'll start public messaging heavy on how to prepare for what we expect to see from the storm. And then our individual departments will start their storm preparations. And then pre-arrival, there's not a set timeline. We know how the forecast changes. It can change very rapidly, but generally somewhere around 24 to 72 hours, 48 hours ideally, we'll start making those critical decisions. Again, always feeding that information up to you consistently and regularly so you have that accurate information, know what we're planning for. But that's when we'll start issuing evacuation orders, declarations of emergency. We might consider opening evacuation centers, requesting outside resources and activating those disaster contracts. And then immediately after the storm passes, we go into that recovery mode, determining the impacts to life safety, providing that search and rescue life safety, clearing roadways, checking critical infrastructure, and we start restoring those critical services as we get into rebuilding. So our goal, again, is to always give you accurate, reliable information. We're going to keep you updated regularly with what we have. There's a lot of all these conflicting reports. We want you to have good information to share with the residents at your disposal. And then lastly, a big component of what we do year-round is community outreach. We do conduct community outreach year-round across the entire city. Most recently, we've attended the Public Safety Homeschool Day. We've delivered emergency preparedness STEM program to 4th and 5th grade students across all City of Virginia Beach schools in partnership with the fire department's Fire and Life Safety Unit, not only giving hands-on emergency preparedness instructions to students, but also sending them home with critical information for their families. We've presented at the First Precinct Citizen Advisory Committee. We visited with many different civic leagues and other community groups. And upcoming in the near future, we'll be presenting to residents through different library programs. We have scheduling to meet with our senior resource center partners like every year we do, make sure they have the most up-to-date information and we're engaged with them so we know their concerns and can help them after a disaster. And we have presentations and outreach coming up to the Sandbridge Civic League to discuss emergency preparedness specifically down in Sandbridge and their unique hazards down there. And many others events coming up. That's what I have for my briefing. If there's any questions.
Yeah, let me start it off by saying what a tremendous job you and your folks do. I think the only thing predictable about hurricanes and tornadoes are their unpredictability. But I think where you and Virginia Beach, your entire Virginia Beach with fire and just everybody, you know, when we had the tornado a couple of years ago, the response was phenomenal. The results were outstanding. We were blessed. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got killed. But when I saw the coordination and interaction of all the services coming together in that neighborhood, I'll tell you what, kudos on you. Hutch,
Yeah, I just wanted to hit on a couple things. Tops, you did a great job, buddy, and the team is fantastic over here. We appreciate it. You know, we're pulling from other agencies, the Coast Guard and others there that help us out and have a lot of knowledge on what we do. I would just like to say to y'all that, you know, we're a metro city with the police and the fire and our EMS. We have our assistant up there, assistant DCM sitting up there, I believe. So we bring a lot of irons to the fire, and emergency management is not second to no one. We don't realize what they're doing, but like he said, if you heard him, 300 hours of training this year. That's a lot of training. Storm ready, getting the storm ready quotes behind your name. There's nothing wrong with that. Exceeded FEMA. You know, that's no small task to be able to do that. I know we hammer FEMA a lot, but having their alerts, being on the notification saying that we're getting that right to 1 million people roughly, because other people are listening to what we're saying. And Norfolk does a great job too. Don't take anything away from Jim. But the disaster recovery plan, getting that done. You know, we do these plans, and a lot of them do get put on a shelf and then never looked at. But that's not the case for these folks. They have to, and we follow them. But all of that put together, and then especially I wanted to bring up, is sort of what you hit on, Mayor, is with the EOC, having that field EOC, like when we had the jet crash, you know, and then you said right behind it, which I thought was so interesting, is USAR, and that we're going to train together, and bringing those two groups together with the EOC and the USAR experience. It was with the tornado, the fire, the jet crash, and the shooting. You know, that's just a few, not to mention the long ones where we get the hurricanes and we have to sit in there for days waiting to see what it's going to be. But it just really, it is a testament to y'all. And then to wrap it all up, just to stem with the kids, you know, to be able to take them and get them interested. And then hopefully one day as they grow up, they'll be better informed and react better, you know, and stay on top of things. The one thing I did want to joke with you a little bit about, but how'd that evacuation plan go? Did you figure out how you're going to get us all out of here?
I got a special plan for you, Hutch. Don't worry.
Yeah. It's called evacuation in place, y'all. So anyway, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
okay, anybody else at this time? Amelia?
Thank you so much for the presentation, and talk about the certification that you received. Can you explain a little further?
Yeah, so every 5 years, the Weather Service nationally, they do storm-ready communities, and what that is they want to promote local governments to take actions to protect their residents and their businesses from any type of severe weather. So they have a matrix of checklists. They come in, we meet with them, they come to our facilities. We have a great working relationship with the National Weather Service already, but they come in and sit down and review our after action reports, our plans, our future plans, our technology, our capabilities for alert and warning, how we plan with them for events, and along with past responses. And then they issue a write-up and a report on that. And if you meet the criteria, you can be awarded the certification, which just shows you meet these minimum qualifications. And then as you exceed that, you get those exceeds or far exceeds, which we've received for our abilities and what we've accomplished.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anybody else? You know, once again, you know, when a storm is imminent, you know, you have to make decisions, and there's a decision loop. And I told this story a couple of times recently. When I first became mayor, we were told we were going to get hit with a Category 4. Okay, it's coming. So we evacuated Sanford. Bottom line is, it missed us, took out the Jersey Shore. But you always got to be ready, you know, for that situation. And if I could use this to underscore, you know, our last meeting when we were with our lobbyists from Washington, and emphasize the need to get Nimmo Parkway done. I'm sure that there would be concurrence in this room that has to be a high priority going forward. Because once again, these things are so unpredictable. Part of our preparedness is making sure our folks can get out efficiently.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Patrick.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, at this time, we'll be joined by our Department of Housing and Neighborhood Preservation, yep, Housing and Neighborhood Preservation Director, Ruthie Hill. She's gonna come and brief City Council about some recent changes to the Attainable Housing Workforce Performance Grant Program that were passed by the state, as well as an update that we wanna do to the City of Virginia Beach program as it relates to capping some of the exposure regarding the finances of that program. So Ruthie will kick off the presentation, then we'll be joined by Sharon Schaaf. We'll go into further details. All right, so go ahead, Ruthie.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, City Manager Duhaney, and City Attorney Mark Stiles. Today, as he just told you, we're going to talk about some updates on the Attainable Workforce Housing Performance Grant Program. So we're proposing changes to this current program policy to conform with requirements of new state legislation. We want to align the application document to those changes, and then we're looking for set a not to exceed performance grant award amount for the grant period, and we're looking for your guidance on the not to exceed discussion. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background just to recap. In May of last year, 2025, there was an ordinance approved to establish this Virginia Beach Attainable Workforce Housing Performance Grant Program. It is a partnership between the City of Virginia Beach and the VBDA, Virginia Beach Development Authority. And then in September of 2025, we actually launched the program and began accepting applications. This program actually provides an incentive for private development of safe, affordable housing that is desperately needed in our city. They are all multifamily rental housing, and the developments must be new construction and must be fully affordable. They can be mixed use and mixed income projects. Secondly, there is an incentive to the private developer to create this housing, and it's based on an incremental tax real estate, which is actually means that the grant funds are created by the real estate taxes that are generated by that development itself. Finally, it's self-sustaining and it's performance-based, and what that means is that the grants then that bring in the development income are then allowed to get the real estate generated from it. The grants can be awarded for initially a 15-year period, but they can actually ask for an additional 15 years of benefit if they have met the criteria. So the purpose is to provide housing, affordable housing, and to further economic development. We do this by incentivizing the construction of new affordable rental units in Virginia Beach. These units must be rented and affordable to households that are at or below 80% of the area median income. The program also incentivizes further those programs that are rented and affordable to households with incomes at or below 50%. There's an additional incentive. What this does is it makes development affordable to our city and more feasible to fill the gaps that the funding gaps that developments are having in order to do this funding. So there was some recent legislation. House Bill 352 was enacted this year, and it will allow localities to meet the requirements of this act. We have already taken advantage of this, but what we need to do is we need to use the changes that came with this legislation and update our policy and our grant policy for this. Today, however, we're looking for proposing these changes to you, but also to conform with this legislation. But we're also looking for guidance from you about capping the tax. I'd like to introduce Sharon Schaaf. She is our Housing Development Manager. She's going to walk you through the examples and the changes proposed for me. She is actually our subject matter expert and has been attending all of these meetings, and so I'm bringing her up. Thanks, Sharon. I'll be back when she's finished.
Thank you. So just to start with some of the examples of the required changes that we have to make to align with the legislation, the most important one is the legislation requires us to record a restrictive covenant against the property, to requiring that property to be used as affordable housing for up to 30 years. So that was the biggest thing that we did not have in our policy that needs to get added. And then there were some other small non-substantive changes. For example, we have to add a definition. We had a definition in there, but there's a specific definition that they wanted us to put in that was actually in legislation. We have to designate a local officer who's going to accept applications, and we have a timeline in ours, but we had to change the date because the state legislation had a different date than we did, so we're changing that as well. So those were, like Ruthie said, those are the required changes to conform to the legislation. But in addition to those, while we're going through this process of changing the policy, we decided it would be good to align our program application, put some information that we have in the application into the policy. So this doesn't really change how we're operating it, but we had information to talk about the requirements for the developer to have their land use approvals before bringing forth a grant application. We have a definition of multifamily rental housing. We have a description of the occupancy, rent, and utility allowance standards that the developers have to conform to once they get their grant. And we also describe how the compliance monitoring will be carried out. So we wanted to align those two documents. And then the biggest change that staff is proposing is a not to exceed amount. So this will impact the grant award. So the current policy, our performance grant, is capped at 100% of the incremental new real estate taxes levied and collected for the improvements on the site. And we adjust it based on whether or not the property is fully residential or if it's mixed use, and if it's fully affordable or if it's mixed income. So a 100% affordable residential property would have no adjustment. They can go up to the 100% of the incremental value. So the other incentive that Ruth had mentioned too, that we provide a grant, we increase the grant amount if a developer is targeting units in a mixed income development at 50% of the median or lower, we'll double the grant for that type of project. So that's our current policy. So what we're proposing is to add to our policy a not to exceed amount for the grant period, which is again up to 30 years. So the way we would determine this is we would look at when the developer gives us their application, we would look at the comparable value of, or the comparable assessed values of other similar projects. So we would look at the value per unit of another affordable housing development that's similar. We would look at the current real estate tax rate that is set by City Council, and we would apply an annual increase in assessed value of 3% a year over the term of the grant. And the reason we picked 3% is that usually in affordable housing, the underwriters, the people who are providing low-income housing tax credits or tax-exempt bonds, they usually they asked developers to project in the future what their income and expenses are, and they have them trend income at 2% and expenses at 3%, and one of the expenses is real estate taxes. So that's why we chose 3%. And of course, once we figure all that out, all those annual tax amounts would get reduced by the base amount to get the actual grant amount each year. So this not to exceed performance amount, grant amount would be documented in the grant agreement that the developer would sign after the city council approves it. But the annual grant that they would actually get is really determined by the actual assessment growth and the tax rate each year. So I'll go into an example to show you how this would work. So if you had for example, 175 unit development that was all 100% affordable and residential, we would look at currently the estimated assessed value we're looking at for similar projects at $124,000 a unit. So for this type of project, that would be $21.7 million. We would apply the current tax rate of 97 cents per 100 of assessed value, so their taxes would come out to $210,490 for the first year. And then we would escalate that again, 3% every year, and then every year deduct the base amount. And when you do that, you get a not to exceed amount of $9.4 million over 30 years. And this comes out to about $1,800 per unit per year over those 30 years. And then again, taking that same example, if you apply this not to exceed amount, and this slide kind of shows you what would happen in reality if that developer's project actually increased in value 5% a year over the 30 years. Under the current policy, we would, over those 30 years, be paying out roughly $13.5 million, which exceeds the not to exceed amount. So what would happen is the city would keep paying that grant each year, but in this scenario, when you do the calculations, this developer would hit that max at year 25, even though their grant term is 30, so that we would not be paying a grant award for those last 5 years. And then on the flip side, if the actual assessed value only increased 2% a year, they would just get $8 million, which is what the calculation would come to. So there would be no impact before under the old policy and the new.
Thank you.
Before we go into questions, just to recap, so what we're looking to do is conform with the requirements of the state legislation with these changes, align our application to those changes, and then ask you if you would like us to move forward with the not to exceed award amount changes. So questions for Sharon or I?
Rosemary and Stacy.
So this doesn't affect the ones we've already approved,
No, ma'am, it does not.
ones moving forward.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Stacy.
Thank you. I think there's a lot of misconception about this program amongst the public. And I would just like to ask you, in your opinion, on a scale of 1 to 10, how effective has this program been at meeting the goals of the city over the last 6 months that we've had it?
10 plus.
10 plus. I would concur. I think what people need to realize is that, one, there's no upfront outlay by the city.
Correct.
So there's no call for cash. If somebody wants to come in and build a $21 million project, it costs the city nothing upfront. If the property ceases to ever be workforce housing, the grant stops automatically.
Yes, sir.
So that we're not stuck with a property, paying a grant on property that's no longer meeting our goals. It also gives incentive to the developer and the owner to keep this property in good condition, because the grant is initially a 15-year grant, and the only way they can qualify for an extension of 15 years is by making additional investments to maintain the property.
That is correct.
So at the end of the day, the city's getting workforce housing that they don't have to pay for up front. there's no maintenance, no insurance, no burden on the city to keep that property going. We don't have to worry about it falling into no repair. And for each unit, because you said it's costing about $1,800 a year, for each unit, that's $150 a month in but for taxes the city's going. So it's just, to me, it's just an incredible deal. That is an amazing thing. And it's been very effective. We've had a few people have already applied. We've got more people in the pipeline. Developers seem to be really excited about the program. So, and I think those are the things that people really need to understand how effective this program is. And at the end of the day, people might say, well, you're paying for a developer to build a building. And we're really not, because under this program, it's but for revenue. And at the 97-cent tax rate that we have, it would take well over 100 years for a developer to recoup their investment. And this is only a 30-year program. So it's not even close to paying for the cost of the project. And so, the changes that we're proposing here, given that even at a 5-year annual increase, I know the last several years have been there, maybe a little in excess, but I don't think it's going to hurt the program. I don't think people are not going to take advantage of it because of that cap. And getting back to that 2% or even a little bit more, it would have no change whatsoever on the outlay or the ability for a developer to recoup their investment, a portion of their investment. So, my recommendation would be this doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't really change the program. So I would recommend that we move forward with the proposal.
Anybody else in the area?
And I would recommend it too. When it first came out, people were really excited about it. We're putting many more of these units in District 4 where there's some land. But the main thing is that each of the developers who have come up are people that are well known for the quality of what they're presenting. My question is, it mentions about having somebody that would be like an officer that you mentioned. Look in there.
We would just have to designate a person in the grant document of who the contact is what that means.
I was wondering, do we have to now hire another person?
No, ma'am. We just have to put the name of the person who they contact in the grant document.
One part I really like that Councilman Cummings mentioned is that 15-year where they come back and double check. Are you keeping this up? Just like we have on the Baker Road, where we have those done by Lawson. They're very well kept. So applying to this would be great. So I'm for recommending us moving forward with the new changes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just if I could just say real quick, just say anything we can do to help with workforce housing is a 10+ for me as well. The more we need it, so it would be very helpful. And if that's working the way it looks like it's working for us, that's a great thing. Thank you.
Let me say again, Marine Corps motto: when confronted with problems, improvise, adapt, and overcome. The fact is we have a housing crisis in Virginia Beach, but it is unique to Virginia Beach. It's everywhere. And over the last couple months, two things come to really mind that is a wake-up call for me. I've been working with a very nice group of folks from the NAACP who are working on the housing thing. And if possible, the next time we get together, if the manager doesn't mind, if you can maybe attend, because they're really trying to come up with some innovative stuff, to help, people in the community that really need some help. But recently I had a couple of constituents call the mayor's office saying they're having trouble paying rent. And, and then we find out that, so I reached out to a couple realtor friends, And I'll tell you what, trying to find an apartment less than $2,000 a month is difficult. And, I was at a banquet the other day with the special ops folks, and I was sitting next to a Navy diver. And he had trouble finding housing, in Hampton Roads. He's living in Moyock. And, Hutch, I think a bunch of our fire folks, from what I understand, live in Moyock.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah.
More than I like.
Yeah. No, so once again, let's just say what it is. It's a crisis. But I think, based on what Stacy said, I think when we present this to the public, okay, the naysayers are going to be out there. Okay, we know that. But we are confronting a crisis. And I think if we articulate it the way that, Stacy, Ruth, you said it, I think there's got to be a good public relations effort that we are engaging this proactively. And, once again, it really comes down to a lot of and let's realize that a couple of years ago at a retreat, we determined that housing, attainable housing, was our fourth highest priority after stormwater, public safety, and schools. And once again, working with Harumfa, military advocacy group, the Department of Defense, one of their highest priorities are housing, daycare, quality of life issues for folks. So once again, I think, does anybody object? Let's move forward and aggressively and even come up with more innovative ideas to confront. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, two good presentations. Okay, council discussions and initiatives. Anybody? Josh, Rosemary?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to say thank you to the folks who came out last night to Williams Farm Rec Center to learn about the Pleasure House Point Wetlands Restoration Project. We gave a project update. Our Public Works Director did a fantastic job. And we learned yesterday that the project to date has come in a little over $3 million under budget, which is fantastic. We also learned yesterday that had we waited it out and maybe gotten the credits from one of the other banks that we may or may not have, probably could not have gotten those credits from, it would have been more expensive, more uncertain. And as a result of this project, we have credits left over to go ahead and execute on future flood protection program projects. So I want to thank the staff who came out. I would like to thank the residents who came out. We had a really neat kind of surprise treat from a local drone photographer who many of you may already follow. His name is Hutton Strader. He's done drone photography work at the resort, and he's worked with the environmental studies program and students. So he actually got out there on June 5th, just last Friday, and took some amazing footage of the project area. So we were able to show real time what it looks like currently. And speaking of graduates, I just wanted to throw out a congratulations. I know all of us do to all of our graduates who are closing out school this week. And just a bittersweet one to my twins who are graduating 5th grade at Thurgood Elementary School. And I'm gonna give a little shout out to my daughter, one of my twins, Alana, who was blindly selected for Poet Laureate at her graduation ceremony. So, so pretty awesome.
Yeah, I graduated 5th grade in 1955. Oh, Lord. Rosemary?
Back to the future.
I just wanted to bring up something, and maybe some of you have had some interactions on this or not, and just maybe if we could look into this a little further. But our buses, when they stop, their little arm swings out and everybody's supposed to stop. And they now have cameras on them. And I've been, and this was state legislation, this was not our legislation. But we want our kids to be safe, absolutely, absolutely. But I've heard from at least 4 different people that, when the arm comes out, they were progressing right past the bus and they couldn't stop, but yet they got hit with a ticket. And I heard from one lady she left Florida and went to New England. She stayed in Virginia Beach one night, so she was a visitor. And when she got home, she had one of these summons citations in her mail. And she was really upset. She says because she wasn't able to stop because it came out so quickly and she was right next to the bus. And so she wanted to fight it, but she's in Florida. It's kind of hard to come in and fight it. And it's a $250 fine. When you think about our other fines for cameras, the red light running is $50. The school zones is $100. $250 is, I mean, I heard from somebody who's a very senior citizen, very fixed income, and I mean, it's unfortunate she got it, but I mean, that could be somebody's groceries for a week or two. And I talked to the school board chair about it, and she said that their attorney is having to spend a lot of time in court having to go to this, which is not the best time for our attorneys to be spending, and that they're throwing them out left and right. So I don't know if it's the lag time, like when it comes out, if they need a couple of seconds, so if you're traveling, you get past it. Because what happens, the bus stops, the arm goes out like immediately, the doors open, and once the doors open, the students are allowed to stand up and get out. So there's plenty of time, not plenty of time, but at least a few seconds. So I was just wondering if anybody else had any concerns about this. We could just kind of look into it. Maybe the lag time might need to be adjusted, or, I mean, $250 seems a whole lot, especially for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that might be worth looking into.
If we could look into this, and like I say, the school board chair says our attorneys have to spend all this time in court over these tickets, so. Has anybody else had heard anything about this?
I heard about it, about the 250. Trolls.
The state said it.
Ah.
Yeah, this was a state legislation.
Yeah, I'll mention something about that in my update.
Thank you.
Okay. Amelia?
Yes, well, I'm really excited. I'm sure you know about Blackstreet, famous group. And what's even more exciting, they're homegrown, and they are from District 4. And they're about to have a Global Pass event from all their Grammy Award winning platinum, and they're headed for 3 days, which is upcoming Juneteenth, to Africa, Morocco, to Europe, to North America. And of course, everyone's waiting for them to play the famous Hot Diggity.
They won a Grammy for it.
They won a Grammy for it. So we're really excited because they were on the Hot 100 for 4 weeks with that, and they've sold over 7 million albums. So I was thinking, before they go for the Hollywood star thing, that maybe somewhere in July, I was talking with the mayor about this, that we could maybe prepare a resolution for them. Because, I mean, this is very special. Life from Virginia Beach.
And then, hopefully, we would also consider the street naming. Once again, the ceremonial one, not an official one. And, Amelia, thank you. But once again, one of the reasons, I spoke to you, I mean, the genesis of this group and a lot of other groups, started in that section. Right. Many things. And once again, I think when we honor, folks like this, we do have a creative community that live in Virginia Beach that some way has been left out a little bit. And I was able to work a couple of years ago with a guy named Gabe Niles, and we did a podcast. And he asked me to do that because he wanted to let people know the mayor cared about youth, minority youth in the area. And as a matter of fact, he's been appointed to our task force. And, and Channel 13 did a profile on him that I thought was very, very, positive in a way that we are being inclusive. So if it's okay, I would like to, help Amelia and, go forward with these initiatives. But I think it was also to realize that it's amazing how many artists that we have not only in Hampton Roads, but we have right here in Virginia Beach. And I think this might be a lovely way, and maybe even within the resolution, to acknowledge
Some of the other names.
some of the other instances that that they really started a wave of positivity. So, does anybody object with us going forward with this?
So, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, there's a council resolution, a recognition resolution,
Yeah.
and also a resolution for street ceremony, street sign. Okay.
I just need to get their contact information so we can arrange a date.
Yeah, he's going to be back in town after the trips first week in July, if possible, if that's not rushing it too bad.
I'm sorry, what was his name?
Chauncey Black. And if you recall, 2 State of the Cities ago, they did the national anthem. And I'll tell you what, it rocked. Maybe we can get a clip of that and send it out to council members. We've been told that it's one of the best renditions of a national anthem that a lot of people ever heard. They sang it a cappella, and they're a very, very talented group of musicians that originated right here. And that's just what we do. But once again, I think acknowledging the creative culture and Michael, you've been at the forefront of making sure that folks have the opportunity. I was at an event where a number of creative culture artists were there. They had headphones and they were custom painting them and selling them for charity. They're involved in so many, activities with the arts. And there's another group that we go to. I think, Amelia, you've been to a number of them with the poet laureates.
Yes.
They run it at Renaissance Academy. There's a lot of stuff going on that people could really, take advantage of. So that's okay if we can move forward. Speaking along the line, we always said we got the task force, for Safer Virginia is going to be up and running. And we also said we're going to be 100% transparent about that. And on Thursday, we're going to be meeting with our chairs, who are Delegate Figgins and Senator New Craig, just to go over the ground rules and get it going. And, one of the things, this is an opportunity for us to build a bridge with our General Assembly in terms of not only this, but other things going forward that are germane to what we're trying to do. And, I think, it's going to be a good positive step. And then once it's open, these meetings are going to be open forums to everybody. And they're also going to be, I believe, 4 outreach. And Dulcina Miles, a very first citizen of Virginia Beach, who is very proactive in organizing, she's going to be the moderator at these things. So, and we're hopefully going to have everything wrapped up by, I guess, hopefully October time, so we can get whatever thing, because we're going to need enabling legislation from the General Assembly. And I can tell you that all of the other mayors in the 757 are committed to what we're doing. As a matter of fact, we just found out another 757 mayor, put in a youth, Patrick.
Curfew. It sounds like it's legislation that the city of Newport News is considering after several pop-up teen takeover events in that city. They're looking into the idea of declaring a curfew to address the issues.
So what's happening here is happening everywhere.
We are becoming a model city for certain things. Yeah, we are.
No, but I tell you what, we got some work to do, but at least we're showing the public that we're confronting it. And yes, we as a council, took some heat from the curfew. But can I say that since we had the curfew, Yeah, we really haven't had any problems. And I'll tell you what, if you go to Jackalope and if you go to, the other things, it's nothing to say that, this is always going to be that way. But I think if we set the tone and show that we're serious, come to Virginia Beach, have fun. But if you come to raise havoc, you're going to be dealt with. And that's all we want. But once again, I just want to thank, council for courage and conviction. We're all going to be moving forward, and I invite you as we go forward with the task force over the next months. I invite each of you to be proactive and help out. Okay. And that's all I got. Anybody else? Okay, we're getting into close. Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to recess into a closed session pursuant to the exemptions from open meetings law by section 2.2 Code of Virginia as amended for the following purposes. Discussions or considerations of acquisition of real property for public purpose or the disposition of publicly held property, with the discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to section 2.2 3711A3 in District 6, and that is corrected from a previous thing of District 2, but it is District 6. Public contract, discussions to award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds and discussions and terms or scope of such contract. Where discussions in an open session would adversely affect bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to section 2.2 3711A29, that's VB National. Personnel matters, discussions, considerations, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees from any public body pursuant to section 2.2 3711A1, and that's appointments, boards, commissions, committees, authorities, agencies, and appointees. Now I'm asking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Berluci?
Aye.
Councilmember Howard?
Aye.
Councilmember Henley?
Aye.
Councilmember Hutchinson?
Aye.
Councilmember Jackson Green absent. Councilmember Remick?
Aye.
Councilmember Ross Hammond?
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Schulman? Vice Mayor Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Dyer?
Aye.
10-0.
Okay, we are in recess. Closed session.
Second.
Councilmember Berluci? Councilmember Cummings?
Aye.
Councilmember Henley? Aye. Councilmember Hutchinson?
Aye.
Councilmember Jackson Green absent. Councilmember Remick? Councilmember Ross Hammond?
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse had left. Councilmember Schulman?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Dyer?
Aye.
By a vote of 10-0, you declare by the closed session. We have
All right. Thank you all. We are done. Thank you.